Oh, nice, man. Nice. Way to go. I wasn't sure we'd be able to pull, these looks together for the pay-per-view, but I think it's coming together real nice.
Oh yeah, that Sturgis shirt, the denim, the do-rag, brother. Oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I'm legit like I should be wearing more bandanas in my life. I'm not gonna lie. Where's Joe? I haven't. He said he had a costume and he's just getting changed. Once he gets here, we'll get started.
Hey guys,
What? What the hell is that?
what
Brother,
do you
wrong biker.
No. Adam clearly said wear biking gear. So I looked around. I found my helmet. I got a high visibility shirt. I got my water bottle over here. Elbow pads and knee pads, or I don't know, somewhere. Hell, I even made sure I put on my biker shorts.
Oh God! Start the intro.
The following podcast has been paid for by the new pod order.
Welcome to the new pod order, everybody. We're here for episode 7, and we are covering, words are hard, the Hog Wild Pay-Per-View, our second pay-per-view of the podcast, and we are just so excited we can't even get through it. I'm your host, Adam Rogers. I just got back from the Buffalo Chip Campground where people were surfing a different kind of sea of heads, if you know what I mean. With me, of course, are my co-hosts. First of all right, fans, quick second. I want to assure you, I did have a talk with Joe before the show. Don't worry. We made him promise that unlike his namesake, he'd keep it under 47 false finish calls if he's got them and keep it down to 2 bottles of moonshine. That's it. Joe the Brain Chassis. How you doing, Joe?
Oh boy, it has been one hell of a busy week. But, it's all right. I definitely only have ċerry Coke in this cup.
Yes. I think we all have our liquid refreshments close to hand. With our other co-host, he's got the devilish eyes of a devilish brother, and you don't want to see his gams. His name is Mean Matt Rogers. Matt, I understand you're spending the week at the old Rogers homestead with the folks. How's that going?
Good. Uncle Bubba told me that he didn't get on this card because, Jimmy only had so many appearances and they blew him all on the pre-show.
Ridiculous. He's the most authentic looking biker guy on the roster, but okay, whatever. So, as I said, we're here to cover the Hog Wild Pay-Per-View. This is the follow-up pay-per-view show to the Big Bash at the Beach reveal, which it should be noted when we're recording this on the 9th of July, we're just a couple of days from the 30th anniversary of that seminal event in wrestling. So it is NWO 30th anniversary week here. So we thought we'd do something a little special, and I'm glad that we've got the pay-per-view here to carry things forward. Usually this is the part where we check in on what was happening in the world, but we're going to skip that because this show is going to be too long already. But we will go to some backstage facts about the show for Hog Wild. So this pay-per-view got a buy rate of 0.62. That translates to about 220 to 235,000 people buying it, which is a good thing because attendance at the show was absolutely free. I guess Eric Bischoff decided that they could go ahead and just eat the cost of having the people there eat any profit that they could have turned from ticket sales at the show. I could see how working security at the Sturgis when there's no event set up could have been an issue, but it's an interesting choice. It's the first of kind of a series of bizarre choices that were around this show. Given the fact that you're coming off of this huge turn of Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach, and now the next show you're just giving away. Also, as you can kind of see behind Joe there, the promotional materials still had Hulk in the old red and yellow, which, fair enough. You need a certain amount of lead time. The poster was probably designed before they had even come up with a lot of this stuff for the NWO. I'll give them some slack on that. Unfortunately, after the show, they released the VHS tape, and it still had that cover on it. Didn't have time to go draw something up, huh?
Hey, promotional materials aren't cheap, brother.
I guess not. Many people have alleged over the years that this show was actually just a boondoggle for Eric Bischoff to get to go and attend Sturgis. And funny thing is, if you listen to his 83 Weeks episode from early in their run where they covered this, he actually kind of confirms it. He wanted to go. He saw the opportunity here for the partnership with Harley, which, I get that, because if you can get that market or get those guys in, Harley is going to want the demographic that are primarily wrestling watchers of the 20, some males and things like that. So that part of the business thing makes sense. But yeah, also Eric just wanted to go to Sturgis and check it out. Sturgis Rally itself is obviously the biggest motorcycle rally in the world, at least as far as I'm aware. While this show is going on, they talk about how 250,000 bikers, and you'll hear that several times during the show too, 250,000 bikers descend on this little town of what is 6,500 people the rest of the year for this massive biker rally that is world famous and has been running since 1938. I did a quick Google. Today, the attendance is more close to like 500,000 people or over that go to the rally. So it's only grown since here. And obviously, the big storyline that we've been rattling on about for the last several weeks is who's going to be the fourth man? Who's the new person who's coming into the NWO? They've confirmed that there is a fourth man and maybe even a fifth. Who's it supposed to be? Or who's it going to be? Well, the answer was supposed to be Sean Waltman, also known as Six when he shows up in the WCW, probably best known as X-Pac from his time in Degeneration X. Technically speaking, at this point in time, he has been released by the WWF, but with a little bit of chicanery in their legal department, they kind of slow-walked sending him his release papers, apparently. So they didn't have him in hand. And given that WCW was already taking some flack from WWF for maybe co-opting Diesel and Razor Ramon and making it look like the WWF is running an invasion of the WCW show, I guess they decided from a legal standpoint that they were going to go ahead and not push their luck. And so X-Pac's there. He's backstage at the show. He just doesn't get to come out or do anything. They decided to back off. And, well, if we're still doing this when we roll around to next year for this pay-per-view again, this will be there'll be another legal decision, this time about the name of the pay-per-view that we'll get to talk about when we get to there as well, because it turns out Harley Davidson Company somewhat litigious about their copyrights. We roll into the show. We get a nice aerial shot of a helicopter flying overhead, which just to set the ambiance. The wrestling show. This show's weird. If you've never watched Hog Wild, this is a weird pay-per-view. Not the least of which because there's just audible helicopters flying overhead most of the pay-per-view. The setup, there are no chairs. This is a wide open just field that the biker folk have rolled their motorcycles up and parked and are just sitting on them and watching the show. The ramp coming down from kind of a camo netting sort of entryway is just dirt and rocks. You know, pull in a loader truck, dump out a load, maybe stamp it down a little, but it's just dirt and rocks is what the wrestlers are coming down to the ring on. To a ring that is elevated what's probably about 10 feet off the ground on just, I don't know, like a platform that they built out of wood, which, okay, it makes sense because like the ground is level. You have to raise the ring up or nobody could see anything. But especially in our first match, there's going to be, that's going to be a little bit hazardous. But yeah, guys, what do you think about the setup here, about the Hog Wild sort of pay-per-view? What's your thoughts on where this thing is starting from as we get into the action, Joe?
All right, so I'm going to start with the positive. We were very complimentary of the initial Disney taping because it was a unique look. It was something that was unlike anything really that you were seeing in wrestling, definitely at the time. And they go ahead and with this, they've kind of taken that to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, but you know, it's very distinctive. If you don't stop and think about it, it's really cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that I don't think anybody stopped to think about it.
That could be the subtitle of the WCW novelization, honestly. WCW. I don't think anyone stopped to think about it.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't fault them for trying. I just wish that a little more consideration had been paid to things like, I don't know, the wrestler's safety.
Yeah, and I agree. It is cool. It's a cool idea. Matt, I don't know about maybe the execution, whether they quite pulled it off, but in like Joe said, in principle, in concept, this is kind of a rad thing and very different than anything Vince McMahon and the WWF are doing.
Oh yeah, I'll say it was real badass having all the bikers pulled up, having the helicopters running around, putting that ring up in the middle of nowhere. But I mean, the sheer safety fact that you got like from your edge of your ring to your 10-foot drop, you got maybe 4 or 5 foot of space for anybody when you're going to have all the people that are working on the outside, managers, everybody else. Like, you know, you mentioned it, the first match, the whole time you're holding your breath going, oh God, what are they going to do? I hope no one dies. And there's a way to maybe use your loader to put a dirt ramp down the side so you're not just taking a 10-foot spill if you go over the side. But apparently OSHA was on vacation or doesn't cover Sturgis. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think there's probably a big OSHA presence at the Sturgis biker rally. So, but yes, I think things are quite, the potential is there for serious injury. Like I'm picturing that Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio eating shit on the splash into the concrete. If that would have happened here, I don't know if Rey would have survived to become the legend that he is today. But we cut to the ring and we're heading for our first bit of action as Shivani says that Sturgis is alive with the sound of Harley's. Decent line, I would say. But we get our first taste of helicopter as where we get a nice soaring shot over the campground showing that everybody is there. And we get to another questionable choice. The question of what the hell are the announcers wearing at this show? Like, yeah, Matt, go ahead and let's see what we got going on here. We got some good denim going on with Tony with his temporary tattoo on his arm that they pretend is not a temporary tattoo. So even crazier. You got Dream. The denim vest works. The shorts are a choice with the cloth belt. You can't see him there, but he's got his cowboy boots on too. So that's okay. That works. And I don't know if Heenan, like, if he's trying to like say, okay, fine, I'll wear something leather, but that's it. or if he just went to his closet and was like, fuck it, I got this. This is what I'm going to wear.
So I think this is just Dusty's normal weekend wear.
That's true.
And I can't remember. I listened to both the 83 Weeks and the Shivani podcast about this show. And one or the other of them, I think it was Shivani who said that was pretty much what this was. This is just what Dusty wears.
Yeah.
Right,
I also got to say on my friend Heenan's part, choosing a long sleeve, layered all black outfit when you're outside in the sun and drinking heavily, probably not a good choice.
Possibly. It's possible that dehydration is going to play a role as the show goes on. We're just going to have to see. Another interesting thing about the start of this is when we come into the pay-per-view, those fans have already been there watching the recording of WCW Saturday Night. This is not some little pre-show. This is a full television program. It has 8 matches on it. So they have seen 8 matches on this card. And if you think they were just running through the matches as quick, no, there are interview segments in between. It is a full damn wrestling show that these fans have already seen before the pay-per-view starts. I'm kind of realizing we may need to look at that from time to time. So I'm going to start just sort of throwing the WCW Saturday Night rundown at the beginning. This show, we got Public Enemy knocking off Mike Enos and Dick Slater. So our good buddies, Dirty Dick Slater and Mike Enos, still can't get on the winning side of things. Conan defeats Chavo Guerrero Jr. And in an interview actually says that Hulk Hogan's turn has kind of inspired him to look out for himself, which does kind of pay off as we go along. The Nasty Boys beat up High Voltage. Nasty Boys very over with the biker crowd, not a big surprise. Alex Wright defeats Bobby Eaton. So we get a win for our boy Alex. We're happy about that. The Dungeon of Doom, Kevin Sullivan, Meng and the Barbarian defeat Jim Powers, Mark Starr, and Joe Gomez. Dave Taylor. So we get two wrestlers from the Blue Buds, none of which are Steven Regal. Defeat Mr. JL in a very short match. Anybody want to score a internet point on who Mr. JL is?
That's the future Jerry Lynn.
Ding, ding, ding. Jerry Lynn of wrestling, Rob Van Dam fan. He did other stuff, but that's the thing he's mostly known for. And then there's an 8-minute DDP versus the Renegade match. So that must have been a barn burner. And then our main event is Arn Anderson versus Hugh Morris. Hugh Morris, everybody, in the main event. Okay. You'll notice no Uncle Bubba in there, so screw you, WCW, on that one. And what will be relevant later on is somewhere in all of that Mishiva, the Giant comes out for an interview and he gets interrupted by Ice Train, who gets on him and tells him he needs to focus on defending the WC title, gets on his case about Giant, choke slamming his manager, Teddy Long, who apparently is still recovering at this point, which results in the Giant just beating the crap out of him and then stomping on his shoulder. More on this later as this story develops. But we are going to head to the ring for our very first match. This is a cruiserweight title match where the Ultimate or Ultimo Dragon, depending on who you are and whether you want to say his name right, coming out with Sonny Ono, is going to take on Rey Mysterio for the cruiserweight belt. And this led me to just dub him Ultimato Dragon for this. So I'm going to go with going forward. But Joe, time for your world famous Who's That Wrestler for Ultimo Dragon. Give us a little background on the Dragon.
All right. So the Ultimate or Ultimo, I'm going to go with Ultimo because I like calling people by their preferred names. Ultimo Dragon is Yoshihiro Asai. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because he is the wrestler who popularizes what is now known as the Asai moonsault.
Okay.
He
and
is
the
about
berry, probably.
Yeah. He is about 7 years into his career at this point. He started with New Japan and they told him he was too small to be a wrestler. So he said, to hell with this, I'm going to move to Mexico. Had a bunch of success with the big promotions, CMLL and AAA there. And upon seeing his work, New Japan was, or not New Japan immediately. A number of Japanese promotions said, hey, why don't you come back home and wrestle here? You're pretty good. So eventually he makes his way back to New Japan. He ends up winning a couple of IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championships, and has a pretty good amount of success in that promotion over the next couple of years. But some of that we will actually get to catch up on as we go through future episodes of Nitro. That is actually going to come into play in some storyline stuff when we get there.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know about you, Matt, but I remember watching some of these Nitros back in the day, the Ultimo Dragon. I think as much for his distinct look as any of the stuff he did in the ring, I was always pretty excited to see him out there. And I remember him being one of the ones I played as a lot on the old N64 WCW versus NWO game. Matt, what do you recall about Ultimato Dragon from back in the day?
No, I remember Ultimo pretty fondly. Like when I saw this match was starting the pay-per-view, I was like, ooh, we got a good one starting it. I feel bad for the people following this because this should, blow the roof off the doors and just absolutely deliver. So I was ready to go.
Well, it certainly doesn't look like it's going to blow the roof on the doors as the wrestlers are coming out. I think that the fatigue from going through a whole wrestling show before this, paired up with the choice of opening this with a Japanese wrestler versus a guy billed as coming from Tijuana, Mexico, is maybe an interesting choice, I would say, given the crowd that we're working with here. So I think much like Bash at the Beach, Ray and his opponent are starting out kind of behind the eight ball with the fans, and we will see as we go along how they do with winning the crowd back. But I did make a note so I listened to Wrestle Me, their YouTube show, and one of the things they did point out is that the luchadors are maybe actually a sneaky good choice for this. Because a regular part of the performances that are done in Mexico are these kind of outdoor exhibition shows that are actually kind of there to promote the other wrestling show that's coming down the line. So there's a good chance these guys have been in this kind of slot before and maybe know what to do to get the crowd up and into the match. What gets me into the match is that Mike Tenay is back. So that's good. Somebody's there to tell us all of the lucha words. Although Dream does argue that he's learning some of them as he goes through. It's a spinning, flipping wheel kick or something like that. He calls it. It sounded like he was playing that Kung Fu card game that we have for a second there.
Yes. Yeah, I'm getting to really find these Dream and Tenay matches. Commentary on matches is quickly becoming one of my favorite parts of pay-per-views.
Yes.
Yeah.
One can only hope that we'll get I'm not sure how long it takes before Tenay comes in as a regular on the crew. But we'll look forward to that when it happens. They open up with some pretty good looking technical work. Tenay starts us off by letting us know that this is the first time they faced each other. I'm not sure if that's true or if that's wrestling facts, but Tenay's saying it, so there's actually a good chance it's true. But they have worked together as tag team partners previously, and it's not unusual for tag team partners to split and wrestle against each other in kind of the New Japan sort of environment. But yeah, they open out with some pretty good back and forth technical work. A lot of just kind of getting one up on each other at the beginning. You can do that. I can do a flip. Oh yeah, you can do a flip. I can do a double flip. That kind of things. The crowd's not quite following it at this point. It's a little bit early. And we do get a USA chant, which is interesting. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that because Rey Mysterio is coming out in his Spider-Man gear, it's red, white, and blue. Maybe that's what they're saying USA for. But critically, Ultimo does a good job of going with the heel heat from this. So the crowd is on him. He's, he literally is covering his ears up and tries to get does the thing where he's taunting the crowd a bunch of the time to get him riled up. And Ray, does a good job of rolling with it and okay, fine. He gets the USA chant going with some claps and things like that at one point. And right about here at 7 minutes and 57 seconds into the show, a blow-up doll appears in the crowd. So that does kind of set the tone. But Matt, what are you thinking here at the opening? How they chose to open up the show and the crowd sort of interaction with it?
It was a good match to start. You want to start out hot. You always want your best match to either be last or first or both if you can have two really good matches on one card. So it was a solid choice. I think the Dragon came out working a fairly strong style approach to the match where they weren't going high spots, and the crowd was probably expecting more high energy, high spot match, and we're working more grounded heel work, which was really good work from Ultimo, but I don't think the fans were ready for that kind of a look. So they struggled at the part till they head into that first USA chant. And then when the pace picks up here in a second, we'll see that the crowd starts getting a little bit more on board. I also just want to make a special note of some of Heenan's wonderful comments from this section of the match.
Right. Okay, let's see how this goes.
So the first great one was that both Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio must be really ugly or they wouldn't hide their faces by wearing masks.
This is an interesting thing to bring up while we're here in the bandanas and the sunglasses.
The second great one was, and I don't know how he transitioned into it because I didn't write the entire line down, but he basically insinuates that Ultimo Dragon has 34 pesos, which is basically $8, which makes for a really great life in Mexico. And I was like, okay, Heenan, that's wonderful. So I'll pass it over to Joe. I just didn't want Heenan to get a pass on his warming the blocks up for what's to come.
Well, Larry's not here, so somebody's got to cover that bit for him.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, so that is pretty standard heel commentary stuff for the era, unfortunately. I mean, there's a decent chance that a heel announcer might even try and go with they're wearing the masks because they're ugly comment today. But I mean, yes, definitely stuff that at least a good chunk of it has not aged well. As far as the match is concerned, this is one of those. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout this show, where we have some stuff that is really good wrestling matches that is being put on in front of a largely non-wrestling crowd, and at times, some matches it's going to work better than others. But I really appreciate the fact that they are kind of they're doing a good job of starting off with a very steady base and building their way up to the big spots that you're going to get in a WCW Cruiserweight division match, especially of this era. And I do feel like even at this point, before they've really hit anything particularly big, there's a few, the couple of selected spots that they do hit that are bigger at this point. The crowd is really, really here for. So it's an encouraging sign, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it's an exciting stunt show that you're seeing in the ring there, and it's tough not to enjoy that. They also kind of get things pop. I think things really start to pop when Ultimo gets Ray up and does this running sit-out powerbomb spot on him. I think that's where people are suddenly like, oh, okay, here we go. And then, of course, he pops up and does a pose to try to get the crowd to boo at him. So that you've got him, and they've got him at this point. They're paying attention now. So, of course, let's put on a figure 4 and slow things down at this point. Tenay jumps in at this point and discusses some of Ultimo Dragon's recent successes he's had in Japan, including a 2.5-minute victory over Jushin Thunder Liger, before he brings up that this week, apparently, Liger was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So everybody, of course, jumps in and wishes him, a speedy recovery at that. I did kind of wonder at the time if Tenay and company even actually know who Jushin Thunder Liger is at that point. But, at least everybody is classy about that. Less classy, we cut out to Sonny Ono, who is looking into the camera, and I'm not going to do the voice, but says, American fan is so stupid. You can imagine what the accent is. And it's funny because, like, Sonny is Japanese. He has a Japanese accent. You don't need to put on the fake, Yellow Panic version of it, but he leans into it. And worth pointing out something I didn't realize, but actually Sonny is actually really important in the organization at this point as a go-between translator for the Japanese talent and the largely English-speaking company. So he's got an important role in WCW at this point, beyond just being the manager that's there at ringside for a lot of the Japanese talent that we've run into so far. There's a really cool spot I wanted to call out where Ultimo actually pulls Mysterio up into what I could only kind of describe as an inverted torture rack. So, like, Ray's back is to, Ultimo's head, and then Ultimo, like, spins around does like an airplane spin with him before dropping him down for a backbreaker, which set up a nice little commentary thing where they're like, I don't know how he's going to get out of that. And then Ultimo drops and cracks him, like, oh, that's how he's going to get out of that. Puts him over into a surfboard stretch at that point, and this sets up, this gets us into the next section where Ray gets out of the surfboard stretch, takes the momentum back, gets a big drop kick to Ultimo Dragon's back that gets a big pop, and I mean he hits him pretty hard. It looks really good when he gets him, but drives Ultimo outside. And then he baseball slides Ultimo off of that sort of ringside area out to the ground, down below it. And this sets up probably the most dangerous spot of the entire night, where Ray slingshots or springboards himself up onto the top rope and comes off on a splash all the way to the ground onto Ultimo Dragon. They estimated in some of the things I was listening to, that's maybe a 15-foot drop. That's almost a Hell in a Cell drop, and no damn table for him to fall on at the bottom there. And of course, naturally, the cameraman misses it. You don't see him fly through the air. So just great work, WCW production team. There's some more things coming up. Ray gets another nice Frankensteiner, which we key point, Frankensteiner, not Hurricane Rana. We learned this lesson at Bash at the Beach. Ultimo whips him, and he rolls up over the top, goes for another springboard move, but Ultimo drop kicks him out of the air. Ray ends up outside now. Ultimo does a 619 fake out. So, apparently it's just a lucha thing that, Ray is just co-opted, and it's his thing now. Kicks him, skins the cat back in, then comes over with a crossbody. And when he lands, this is the nastiest thud that I think I've ever heard on a wrestling show.
Catches him through the ropes with that variation of the drop kick. Oh my God!
When he hits the ground, I winced as I was watching it. I don't know about you, Matt.
Yeah, no, it sounded painful, but flashing back to that springboard plancha over onto the outside, like the entire time I was holding my breath. I was like, oh God, we got to update the Rey Mysterio injury board. But thankfully he hit this one square. So it was really cool, but man, that takes balls of steel to go for that high of a jump with only relying on Ultimo to soften your blow.
Yeah, I guess when you're 21, you think you're invincible, and Ray, more than anybody else, must have been in that mindset, Joe.
Yeah. He does get up noticeably limping throughout the rest of the match. I don't know whether he's just doing a really great job of selling or if he legit hurt something when he did that. I kind of lean toward it probably being that he hurt something, because human beings aren't designed to fall from those heights, as it turns out. But it's another example of, hey, we're just going to keep building and building and draw this crowd in.
Yep. Yeah, and we're about to head home and finish the thing off. There's some more back and forth between the two wrestlers here. Ultimo hits one of his signature moves, but he doesn't go for the pin. And both of the commentators have been kind of on him about that. But, it's the heel thing. You mug to the crowd. You don't go for the pin when you should have. Instead, he opts to try for a top rope splash. And then he goes for the pin, but only gets a 2 count. Ray gets out of it, slings Ultimo over into the corner, and then picks him up and sets him sitting up on the top rope. He goes for his, Hurricane Rana finisher, but Ultimo just sort of pushes him off in the middle of it, which in a way kind of buries that move because you're like, well, why doesn't everybody do that? But Ray answers that by coming back and punching him first and then doing the move, brings him down for the 1, 2, 3. Most exciting, I think, out of all of this is that this means that our Rey Mysterio count is going up, baby. Rey Mysterio count at 1. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and take this one home ourselves. I did decide, made an executive decision. We're not going to give star ratings on this. We're going to give engine revs. So, Matt, how many engine revs for this match?
I didn't write a lot of commentary on it. I wrote, was it perfect? No. Was it still great? Absolutely. So I'm going to give it 3.5 engine revs. Nice.
Joe, where are you at on this one?
As seems to be the case pretty often, we're in the same neighborhood. I said 3 3/4. I think this is just a notch below the best cruiserweight matches that we've seen to this point on the show. It kind of leaves me wanting more from what they can do once they're a little bit more used to working with one another.
Yeah. And this isn't really part of like the star rating system, but I don't usually give my star thing on this. I leave that to you guys as the color analysts, but I would give this an extra rev just for the degree of difficulty of that, maybe not hostile crowd, but very apathetic crowd, in winning them around through this. And so that is actually why I gave this one my Mountain Dew and pot pie match of the night. Maybe I'm tipping my hands about some things later on, but I think that for me anyways, we have started off this show yet again with the best match of the night, and we'll see where things go from there. Where we're going from here is we're going to Scott Norton versus the Ice Train in our next match. But first we pop up to Gene, who if the other commentators looked like they just sort of threw some stuff together, Gene looks like he was just in the back and was like, what do you have? Just give me something. Okay, sure. Give me the jacket and the hat. Fine, whatever. I'm gonna go stand over here and don't throw over to me very often. It doesn't work on Mean Gene Okerlund. But he does some more discussion of the Sturgis rally in general. Shivani sets some more things up. Right. Gene's not setting up Sturgis. He's setting up the hotline that you can call in, which if for those of us back in the day, we got a kind of a knowing smile about that hotline where you call in and get, who's lurking around in the backstage area? Who could be the 4th and 5th man? I was tempted to just dial the number and see what happened today. They do blur it out and say it's not active anymore on the video, but I don't know. I was just curious, but Shivani is the one who's talking some more about the Sturgis rally. And I think this is the one time I think Shivani kind of slips, and he says that there's some odd people here, so maybe he's seen some things that he wasn't quite wasn't quite ready for during his time at Sturgis. But right around this point, Ice Train is coming out to the ring, and he is wrapped up in a bandage. So clearly this assault from the Giant early on has injured his shoulder. And so we've kind of set the stage for the story of the match here. Norton comes out, looking like Norton. He's ready to go. I didn't write a ton about this match because I don't know that there's really a ton to write about it. I do think that Norton is putting in a little bit more here than usual. And I think, or at least when I dogged on him the first time. And I think part of that is just that he knows Ice Train is somebody he can lay in these hits with and can take it. So it's a lot of strong style work. I do think it's kind of funny that, like, as Norton is putting a submission on, he just keeps sticking his tongue out while he's doing it. That looks a little weird. But yeah, basically the story of this match is Norton sees this weakness in his opponent. He's going to keep hitting, whether it's chops, whether it's punches, whether it's submission holds. He's going to go after the shoulder the whole time. It is kind of unfortunate, I think, that Ice Train, like, they try to get the bandage off, and like it comes sort of off of his shoulder, but like the wrap around his middle is still there, and so he's still got to deal with this flopping bit of cloth over here. Not sure how much that interferes with what he's trying to do as we go along. But Norton gets him down into a shoulder hold again, tongue out while he's concentrating, I guess. Ice Train gets out, does some pretty nasty looking one-arm chops. Today, that's enough to get Gunther over. So, I think there's some potential. There would have been some potential for him. Norton gets him back down, puts him in another shoulder hold. Ice Train gets out. He does get kind of a nice, like, one-arm power slam comeback in on Norton, but Norton it's not really a no-sell, but he just comes back out of it, gets him back down, shoulder hold again, submission, end of match. I'm disappointed. Like, honestly, I said before, this is one of the matches that actually has a little bit of build on the undercard. I thought this could have been interesting. I don't know why they made the choice of doing this injury thing with Ice Train beforehand. You're not trying to protect him. It doesn't help Norton any because, he just whooped on a guy who's hurt and got his win there. It felt like a squash to me, Matt. I don't know. It was kind of a delayed squash.
Yeah, it was not very good. It was what would later come to be known as sweaty, meaty men slapping meat.
Yes, definitely that.
Like, the biggest thing I paid attention to in the beginning of the match was how poorly applied those bandages were. It didn't even take somebody trying to get them off. They were falling during the entrance. You did what a heel does. You focus on the arm, but then you go to a submission that, is there a tap? The AI that I asked about it said no. In fact, there was not a tap. The ref stopped it. I think you said you saw online that they listed as a tap out, but I didn't see him tap. If a ref stopped it, that's even weirder. Weird time for WCW refs to do their jobs. End of the day, I called the match meh incarnate and gave it a generous 0.5 revs just because they tried.
Yeah. Joe, where do you land on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the same. So tapping is not really in vogue as a thing just yet. We're still doing a lot of the verbal submission, so it could be that there was a verbal submission there that we couldn't hear. I really don't think it matters whether he tapped or whether the referee stopped it. They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They got Norton over as a nasty heel who doesn't care whether you're hurt or not. He's going to go after you. They gave Train just enough offense to make you think that, hey, there might still be something here. I think we're going to go with 3/4 of a rev because I think more than anything, the guys did a pretty decent job with what they were given to work with.
Well, yeah. I want to hop back in for a second. I think the reason that I landed on the side of ref stoppage is that the commentary was selling ref stoppage heading into the ref stoppage. So that's why I was incredibly confused. So
sure.
Just want to put that in there.
Yeah, and I think if you were going to build Ice Train up, ref stoppage is the way you would do it there. But it's kind of a technicality distinction. Yeah, I agree, Joe. I think they did. I mean, Norton looked good with all the things he was doing for Norton stuff. But anyway, our next segment, we actually cut to something that they had on Saturday night. So this is an interview backstage. Probably not here. I don't know what studio they record this in, but an interview with Ric Flair. And we get something that we haven't seen a lot of, which is a sincere, mellow, serious Ric Flair doing an interview to the camera. And he's discussing how Arn Anderson was his good friend. They've been up and down the road for 20 plus years together, which, pretty rare in wrestling to never have had it like, oh, the friends have to turn on each other kind of a thing. Like these guys have just been through it in thick and thin forever. And he says it doesn't matter if he's in the limo beside Sting. He's going to be there to support his friend because emotion is key in this business. He apparently had decided prior to that backstage assault that the NWO and the Horsemen could coexist. But after they came for Arn, that changes things at this point. His other good friend is apparently this company, and he's going to stand up and fight for it. It's one company, whether it's Sting, it's Luger, it's Horsemen. They've all got to fight the company, or get in together and fight for their company. If the NWO, any challenges at the end, if the NWO wanted to make their mark, here's their opportunity because the Horsemen are involved now, and the two of them can't survive. Joe, what do you think about this promo?
I loved it. This is the kind of stuff that I really wish that we could get more often from Flair. Crazy woo Flair is great, but I don't know. I think there's something more compelling about intense Flair, and maybe it's how infrequently we get it. I do think. And this kind of goes back to discussion we had a couple episodes ago. I think that it's really, really obvious that they're angling for a Horseman NWO feud. And I think that it's too soon. I feel like they're hot-shotting this because I think there's plenty of mileage left with other WCW guys going against the NWO. But hey, what do I know? I'm not getting paid those big Turner bucks.
No, Matt, same page or?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a really great. Oh no, pretty much. It was a pretty good promo, circling the WCW wagons and doing a good job selling the Outsiders attack and the fallout after it. So I thought it was pretty good. I thought maybe it could have been placed somewhere else in the show, not nearly this low down, but it worked for what it was.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it is a little odd. I mean, maybe you're trying to keep the ball, up in the air that the NWO thing's happening when, we're not going to even touch on that till the end of the last two matches of the show. But yeah, I think if anything, the placement, maybe is a little early on it, but interesting insight, guys. What's coming up next on the pay-per-view is the Battle of the Bikes, the so-called Battle of the Bikes, the challenge between Bull Nakano, again, back with Sonny Ono, taking on Medusa. And so we're going to do a rare two Who's That Wrestlers in the same show. Joe, talk to us a little bit about Bull Nakano.
All right. Bull Nakano. There's some conflicting information out there about what her real name is. Some places it's listed as Keiko Nakano. And other places it's listed as Keiko Aoki. So, your mileage may vary, I guess, on that one. I didn't exactly have a direct line to ask her what the truth was. She started wrestling even younger than most of these other international stars. She apparently started with All Japan Pro Wrestling at All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling at the age of 15. So Ray's the only one that we've heard that supposedly started any younger. And she was their junior champion at the age of 16, which is kind of like the equivalent of like a cruiserweight title. She won the equivalent, what would be like the equivalent to their TV championship at 17. And at that time, she also began working in a tag team with her mentor, Dump Matsumoto. Who is one of the real trailblazers in Japanese women's wrestling. Fun fact, the Sega Master System pro wrestling video game was actually a Dump Matsumoto video game in Japan. So that's a weird, wild little fact. She was in All Japan Women's for quite a while. Won a handful of tag championships, their equivalent of a U.S. or Intercontinental Championship. And eventually, just before she left, she was the world champion for 3 years.
Wow.
And then moved overseas to wrestle in Mexico for a couple years. She became the first CMLL women's champion. And then it was up north to the WWF, where she had a long and storied feud with Alundra Blaze over the WWF women's title in late 94 and early 95. But she was kind of suddenly and unceremoniously released after WrestleMania, supposedly for cocaine possession. But there was light on the horizon. Late in 95, when Medusa jumped ship with the WWF women's title to come throw it in a trash can on Nitro, Bull followed her to WCW, worked mostly in tag matches, on kind of like on the opposite side of the card, a lot of their international promotion. But this is her first match in restarting a feud with Medusa on this show. Unfortunately, she's going to end up retiring in 97 due to injuries. And in 1998, she becomes a professional golfer of all things.
Right. I did know that. That's
right.
Hey man, whatever you got to do. Yeah, it's a good thing the WF took such a strong stand on cocaine use and got rid of Nakano. There's no other wrestlers using any of that substance around that time. You disagree, Matt? Yeah. So Ono is coming out riding on Nakano's motorcycle. Clearly, I don't know if Bull even knows how to ride a bike based on this. So she's coming out. I did make a note that I've always felt that her hair should count as a foreign object. If you haven't seen it, it's swept all the way up in this massive spike thing on top of her head. And Deuce comes out riding on her purple hog, Medusa. The crowd immediately understands the stakes. If you want to get a buy-in on a match with this crowd, this is the way to do it. Everybody's got it. You've got this foreigner with this foreign bike and a good old US of A wrestler coming out on her Harley, and somebody's going to get their bike smashed up. It's beautiful, beautiful setup. We get started in the ring. Bull hot starts things when she attacks her with she got the nunchucks, as Dream was saying it at the beginning there. Some nunchuck attack at the beginning. I guess this is no DQ because the ref sees it and starts the match while she's still hitting her with the nunchucks, but whatever. We're going to drive ourselves insane trying to get rules consistency from referees in WCW. She does demonstrate that she's also a master of the hair foo as she tosses Alundra. And I think perhaps her hair foo is even stronger than Malia's because she tosses her and like Blaze is spinning in circles on the ground from this thing. She does that a couple of times. Bull goes in for a pin that eventually Medusa bridges up out of so that she can start getting some momentum going. She does a couple of I wrote as running takedowns, but Matt, I think you're right. Those are the Sling Blade. They're just, they don't have it doesn't have a name yet, but that's what they are. It's like 3 of them in a row. And goes for a cover that earns the first of Mr. Heenan's "she's got her" calls of the night. Yeah, we're gonna hear that a lot to the 2 count. Bull takes over. She slaps on a hold that, like, I don't know that I've ever seen it before, but it starts out as a sharpshooter, and then she like tucks her feet up under her legs and wraps her up into this surfboard thing. It looks nasty. It looks really good. Joe, what do you think about kind of the opener of this match? I've got some thoughts, but I'll let you kind of weigh in first here.
I'm glad that you left off there because that's actually the move that, or at least a variant of the same move that Paige is using today and calling the PTO.
Oh, okay. Shows how much current wrestling I watch, unfortunately.
I mean, Yeah.
Calling Paige current is a stretch, but continue.
Well, I mean, she's wrestling now.
She is currently on the SmackDown roster, so I don't know how much more current you want her to be.
I mean, I know it from like 10 years ago when she first showed up in the company. So, or however long, it might even be longer ago than that at this point, honestly. But yeah, no, it's a solid start. They've done a good job of doing something that they haven't done yet to this point in the show, which is making the stakes for the match perfectly clear to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Making and Medusa's really helping out with the face heel dynamic by coming out in her Star Spangled gear.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's amazing how when you cater to the crowd just a little bit, how much it can help in getting over what the performers in the ring are doing.
Right, exactly. And Matt, I think I had a comment with you where we were talking before the show where I said you can kind of tell that these two have worked together before quite a bit. And it's maybe kind of a relief to them to be working with somebody that they've worked with before and they know can go with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I feel like even calling it solid is a disservice to how good this first section of the match is. Like, for women's wrestling at this time, this is like on pace for a 5-star match at the beginning, because you're having 3 back-to-back sling blades. You have good chain wrestling. You get hair fu in there, which, you know, who knows if that counts for a 5-star, but it's just good action back and forth. Like, the crowd's there. It's paced well. It's keeping them on their heels. The crowd's bought in. Like, honestly, like, even above the middle sections of Ultimo and Rey Mysterio, this is the most in the crowd has been for this event. The women are like delivering on a level you don't see at this time frame. So this is like, you know, A+ work to this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was really interesting to me was that, like, in terms of the moves that are actually being done, like if you sat down and wrote them out on a piece of paper and you put the Malia one and this one, well, the Malia 2 and this one right next to each other, they're not that different. But the flow, the way they go from move to move, and they can, you know, lean into things and work fast, knowing that the other person has got them, is what I think really makes the difference here. I'm not sure if it's okay that the announcers have a discussion about how weight conversions happen in women's matches versus men's matches. I think Heenan actually kind of does have a point when he's saying that, you know, Bull's 200 pounds. That's like the equivalent of a 400-pound guy in a men's match. You know, you talk about ladies' weights, kind of not cool, guys. Let's see. I already covered a lot of this, so skipping ahead. Medusa does land a beautiful Hurricane Rana of her own at one point. She misses a spinning wheel kick or a spinny flippy wheel kick. I don't know what Jim would have said about it, but misses a spinning wheel kick. And Bull comes back in with a clothesline that looks like it just takes Deuce's head off as she heads to the ground. Medusa bridges things over into a German suplex for a near fall. And
I think it's about this point that Tony finally turns to Bobby and says, "Don't say she got her until the bell rings."
Yes. Which he will be doing a few times. Yeah, I'm not saying it, but on all of these 2 counts, Bobby is saying she got her. And that's going to be kind of the way it is for the rest of the show. So just put it in yourself. But yeah, we get that nice Hurricane Rana, the German suplex, the kick out. Matt, I see you giving the scare quotes over there, but the match is not over at this point, even if maybe it was supposed to be. Medusa gets a sunset flip that rolls up Bull, who I think forgets that she's supposed to kick out. So Medusa just kind of lets it go at 2. Gets up, and then Bull gets another one of these bridge German suplexes in. And this sets up another edition of what I've come to call What the Fuck Just Happened. Joe, what happened at the end of this match?
Okay, well, so if you were not really closely watching, you have no idea.
I didn't.
I happened to actually be pretty closely watching this match because, to steal a line from Matt, I was sports entertained. Medusa very clearly gets her shoulder up as the referee is counting the pinfall. It's a little bit less clear whether Nakano's shoulders are down, But given the fact that the referee rings the bell, that's literally the only logical conclusion. The problem is I'm not sure that anybody involved in the match realized that was the finish, because there's a lot of standing around and pointing and taking a very long time to get to whatever is happening next.
Matt, I know that you were a big fan of kind of the way there were a lot of these sort of near falls, I guess, is maybe how you would describe them at the end here.
I mean, calling them near falls is bad. I think we got back-to-back botched finishes there where you had 1-3 count that was probably supposed to be the original finish that somehow got blown by both of them. And then they ran the spot back, and then both of them, they must have been confused since they missed the first finish, and they both thought they were supposed to kick out there again. And then we move straight into the finish of the match where you're having somebody making a move towards the motorcycles with a sledgehammer with no clear match winner announced. The commentary doesn't seem to know what happened. The ring announcer sure doesn't seem to know what happened. I know there's about 60,000 or however many motorcycles are around them, people who really know what they don't want to have happen, which is having the foreigner with the sledgehammer beat up the Harley Davidson. But it was confusing, and it really was a really tragic ending to what had been a really good match.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem, at least this is from my recollection, is I don't think the bell rings right away. I think the bell rings when Sonny goes out and fakes like he's going to attack the Harley with the hammer, and then like the bell rings. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, so did he get DQ'd for trying to hit the bike when he wasn't actually allowed to hit the bike? Like, what's going on here? But Medusa pops out to the outside. There's some standing around, like you said. She gets the hammer away from him and proceeds to demonstrate that apparently Honda in 1996 made a very durable vehicle. If given that a lot of this show is sort of a free advertisement for Harley Davidsons the whole way through, this kind of turns into a nice ad for the Honda motorcycles, if we're being honest, because Medusa, not Alondra, but Deuce gives that bike a few good shots with that hammer, and she just cannot put a dent in it. She takes out headlights, so she gets that done, but she ends up just having to resort to like tipping the bike over and like swinging on like a weak spot at one of the edge of one of the panels and breaks off like a piece that's about this long. Maybe the ending fell a little flat in its delivery of what was going to go on there, but Matt, how many revs do you give this match overall?
I'll be honest, like 3/4 of the way through this match, I was on pace to give this 4 revs, 3.5 revs, somewhere around there, because it was a fantastic match for what we've got from the WCW women's division. Now, if you throw in the ending to the match, unfortunately, I knocked it all the way down to a 2 rev, because I don't know, it lost it to me there at the end. Thank you. I needed my rest there, but yeah, if it had a better ending, like if we had a clear winner, I think it's easily a 3.5 star. But the fact that the ending ended up so fucked up really did a disservice to the match.
Joe, where are you at with it? Are you in the same ballpark again, or did you guys actually split on this one?
I mean, I'm a little lower. I went about 1.5 revs, and I don't know how to do a sound effect for 1/2 rev. But
I'll try to cut it off.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I think maybe my favorite part of the whole match is actually technically after the match, where Medusa gets the sledgehammer away from Sonny, and Bull just stands there and doesn't really do anything as Medusa starts laying into the bike with the hammer. Poor Medusa was already blown up from the match. Out in the, I'm assuming it was probably like 95 degrees at least outside, before you take into account, being in the ring in the middle of all of that.
I know the camera at the fall on the Ray and Ultimo match is right on Nick Patrick's face, and it's just shine from reflection off of the sweat. So it's very warm.
Yeah, if she wasn't already blown up from the match, by the time she gets done swinging that hammer for about the 5th time, she's completely done.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it, but they kind of let themselves down a little bit with the finish there. We go to the back at this point for a quick check-in with the Steiner brothers, who apparently, in their idea of how biker gang people dress, I think Scott ended up in a different sort of leather store for what he was going for. They mentioned that the Steiners are on CompuServe, which I popped, CompuServe, because I'm old. I noted that Rick clearly does not understand what the internet is, and he pretends he's playing a racing video game by making noises and just sort of mashing his hands on the keys. Scott's like, "Where'd you get that game?" And I'm like, isn't the idea that they're like chatting with the fans on CompuServe? Like, what are they playing a game for?
I mean, to be fair, that seems like it's about par for the course for Rick's attention span. So,
right, yeah. My line was, I'm assuming after the camera cut away, Rick just gets frustrated and starts barking at the computer screen, and that's how that segment ends. But we pivot over to our big, I don't know, grudge match or bounty match where Dean Malenko is going to take on Chris Benoit. Dean's coming out to the ring, and Jimmy Hart's with him, telling him that, basically Dean takes out Chris Benoit and they've got a deal. Which Shivani tries to say that the deal was for the cruiserweight title shot that Dean already got. I don't know how that works exactly. I was so puzzled, I almost didn't notice the guy in the crowd with the double lightning bolts on his shirt. This will be relevant later. Benoit, Woman, and Elizabeth come out next. I love Woman's outfit. I love that blazer with the long tails on the back, the rhinestone red, white, and blue top. Woman looks great. Elizabeth looks kind of quietly terrified, but she kind of always looks that way. But she does pull off the leather look, but I don't know. She didn't look psyched to be there. Maybe that's just me reading things into it.
She probably feels like a third wheel.
Fair enough. They get in the ring. They start jawing at each other, and Benoit just double legs Malenko and starts pounding on him to start this thing off. Brain at this point says maybe one of the craziest things of the entire show, which is saying something for where things go. But he tries to say this version of the Horseman is the best of all time, which Dream kind of politely disagrees with and says maybe for the people that are here right now in the 90s, this is the best Horseman that you could have. I'm pretty sure Ole Anderson and Tully Blanchard might have some words for Brain about this after this is done.
Yeah, I loved that Dusty's response was basically, meh, I guess it's the best they can do for now. And yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I know that they're not going to put over a guy who only just barely left the company. Like, I think it's like 3.5-4 months ago at this point, but they just went from Brian Pillman to Mongo McMichael.
Yeah. And even that is a pale comparison.
Listen, the Horsemen have never been better at NFL football. That's all I'm
saying.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Bobby was not specific about what it was the best for.
Yeah, all right. We got a point. Point Enan. Benoit is ostensibly working as the heel in this, and Malenko's the face, but they don't do a ton of that. I mean, mostly Benoit's heel work is just that he's aggressive as this is going along. Really, this match, I noted, ends up being more of a 50-50 than what we're used to seeing in WCW, which is, I think, appropriate for the talent of the two guys that are in here and the story that you're going to try to tell. So at this point, I am not going to go move for move through this match because we would be here for the next 3 hours just covering this match. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys. You guys go ahead and hit some of the spots during the first segment of time here before we hit the first time call what really stood out to you, Matt, about what we were seeing while we were going through here?
I mean, it was a really good match. Like you said, it was really hard hitting, a lot of back and forth, lots of good technical stuff. You get some of Benoit stuff in, you get the diving CTE headbutt, you get a Walls of Jericho at some point, which apparently is a Benoit move now. You know, it was, yeah, it's a Benoit staple at this point. Yeah. But overall, like, it was a really good match. Like, I didn't take great notes on the back and forth. I hit a couple big things, but I was like watching the match because it was a really, really good match. Like, it was good wrestling. It was two guys who were comfortable with each other. The crowd was actually with it. So all around, like, it's really good in the regulation. When we move into the ending of regulation, I'll read my stream of thought notes then, because it's kind of funny, but I'll let Joe take it from for the regulation segment.
Yeah. So, man, these two are just laying everything in, or at least really doing a good job of making it look like they are. They're such pros that maybe they're just, you know, hitting each other as lightly as can be and making it look that convincing. But and this is another match where we do a really good job of starting with little stuff and really building and getting to bigger and bigger spots. You know, they we get a couple of a superplex pretty early where then the announcers point this out, where Benoit like launches himself horizontally instead of going up high with it the way that you would normally see. Which I mean, I don't think it's probably a particularly safe way to do the move, but it sure looked cool.
Yeah, I was almost like a release superplex. You know,
yeah.
He just like kind of threw him.
You know, Benoit gets the diving headbutt in. Dusty is really putting over what a great referee Nick Patrick is. So, you know, it's good to know that we have such a pro to call all of our important matches. I guess maybe I was hearing things differently than Matt was. Outside of the big spots, I didn't think the crowd gave a shit about this match. I really felt like they were sitting on their hands. You know, like an actual true wrestling crowd would have been going crazy 10 minutes into this match. But like I said, outside of the big spots, these guys, this crowd just is only interested because there's nothing else to watch, I think. And of course, we get Bobby bringing up the Sea of Heads, which is a new and interesting way of describing the crowd.
Yep. Yeah, the Sea of Heads call comes in here. I'm also going to establish a segment for this show. Hopefully we won't need it again in the future, but I'm going to call this the BAC, the brain alcohol content segment. We're going to check in, and we've clearly hit the level of drunk where you had a bit that you thought was kind of funny. The whole, like, she got him. No, you can get him. And we thought that was funny. So now we're going to keep doing it over and over and over and over until we have driven it not just into the ground, but below the ground to where you are approaching the Earth's core. So that's where we're at with Bobby right now. But yes, he does establish the Sea of Heads, which Dream picks up on, and he thinks that's hilarious. So we'll hear that from Dream the whole rest of the show. There was a nice spot in here also that I wanted to shout out where, like, Malenko's got Benoit in like this short arm wrist lock sort of a thing, has him down on the ground, and Benoit like powers all the way out of it, and I think just deadlifts Dean into the air up onto his shoulders into like a back, drop kind of thing off of it that I thought was really, really, really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, they're just pinning predicaments back and forth, trade, doom. The move's so smooth, so quick. It's really, really two technical masters, working at, I think, kind of the height of their powers at this point, which is odd because this is really early in Benoit's career, and Malenko's, still got ways to go too. But Penzer does the 10-minute call. David Penzer, the timekeeper, does his 10 minutes remaining call as we go into that weird high Boston crab, aka lion tamer spot.
And actually, sorry, I wanted to mention one thing about that. That lion tamer. The announcers actually do a really poor job of selling what I feel like is going on there. If you watch the whole time that Benoit's got that locked in, Malenko is really doing a good job of really subtly working his way further and further down and reducing the leverage on the hold. And it's a shame because, like, if the announcers were, I'm just going to say it, if Tenay were there to call the match, he would have pointed that out and would have made it part of the story of the match. These announcers, especially with Drunk Uncle Bobby, don't do anything with it, and so it kind of just looks like Benoit got bored.
Yeah. I think they were busy with Brain trying to establish this as a Canadian crab, so different than a Boston crab. I mean, honestly, as I was watching it, there are a lot of holds as we go along that it kind of feels like they just let go because they're tired, and it's hard to hold somebody in a submission hold for that long. Benoit does still have enough when Dean ends up on the outside to do that nice slingshot crossbody that he does to the outside. So he's not completely blown at this point. And this I noted, this is where the Sea of Heads call happens, is right around here. But we're just referencing it. Brain says that there's just a sea of heads out there in the crowd. One of the many times he's going to point out that these fans have been here since like 6 o'clock and nobody's left, which is impressive. But one, I'm not sure that's true. And two, sea of heads, not a thing. That big release superplex happens. Dean goes for a few covers that don't work, and we hit our time limit draw. And so referee, everybody gets up, time's up, match is over. Crowd, I think, is a little mumbly about this. And the referee announces after some consultation, there's got to be a winner. So we're going to do a 5-minute overtime. And there is no crowd reaction at all at this point. And this is where I feel like the match gets a little bit buried going from this point on. What I do think, and I'm going to say this now, is they do the 5-minute draw or 5-minute extra overtime call. Nick Patrick tells him to ring the bell. Benoit comes in and jumps Malenko in the back of the head and gets him down into a pinning predicament. And I wrote in my notes in capital letters, this was the time to go home. Cheap shot. If you're going to do a cheap shot win, do it now. And it buries the draw. It gets the win for Benoit that you're trying to get. It doesn't take anything off of Malenko, and you get out of here while you've still got some will left with the crowd at this point. But Malenko keeps kicking out. So Benoit gets him into the cloverleaf. They run into that. There's a weird spot that I can't tell if it was a mess up or if this was part of the thing, but like Dean gets slingshotted into the corner. Benoit chases him, and it's kind of Benoit's chin to the back of Dean's head. I don't know if that was a botch or if that was the thing that was supposed to happen there, but they both sell it well. Outside of, I do think it was a little weird that apparently that hurt Dean's leg, because that's going to be the story for the rest of this is psychology. Benoit is working that injured leg of Malenko from this point on. A lot of leg grapevines, a lot of stomps, all to no avail because time runs out again. What did we think about the first overtime, chaps? Matt, let's check back in with you.
So I'm going to read as the beginning to this comment, my stream of consciousness notes as this match is going on. I put in, a time limit draw is an odd choice here for a pay-per-view match. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I'm going to give the match 4 stars on its merit. Wait, what? We're going to an overtime? Why are we going to an overtime? This could have hot shot a follow-up. But yeah, no, the overtime thing, I guess with a good crowd maybe would have worked. I don't think that it was the right choice. Obviously, it kind of fumbles to a really dumb end. You did talk a little bit about when Chris had Malenko in the cloverleaf. We didn't mention the part where Woman is yelling from the side of the ring, "Hang in there, Chris, hang in there." When he's the one that's got the hold locked in that gets drunk Uncle Bobby going again.
I mean, he's tired.
Yeah.
I mean, literally just to hang on. It's kind of what I assume she meant.
Yeah, but it was strange. I don't think, and I'll get to it when we get to end revs at the end of the match, but I don't think going to overtime was the right choice. But I'll throw it to Joe.
Speaking of stream of consciousness notes,
quick.
Oh yeah,
let me hop in real quick.
Yeah.
But like the overtime thing, you do it when there's a title on the line. Like that's the only reason why there has to be a winner is because, and even then, they still used to do time limit draws for titles all the time. There's no stakes for this match. Oh, Matt, the ring lights just came on at Sturgis in Matt's where he's recording. There's no stakes for this match. It's just like a grudge match, I guess. Maybe Jimmy paid the ref off of like, hey, we got to get a winner out of this thing. I don't know.
There's
Joe.
There's a title match on the line. I'll have you remember. Sure, it already happened, but.
Fair point. You got me there.
Yeah.
Matt, Joe, go ahead.
So I could. It's okay because I do want to add one thing to your point. If this was like a long-standing feud that we were finally deciding to put to bed, great. Go ahead and do an overtime because there must be a winner. I think that's the other situation besides a title match where something like that makes sense. But speaking of stream of consciousness notes, I put Benoit kicks out of a powerbomb as time expires, and Nick Patrick calls for a 5-minute overtime because there must be a winner. My question is, if there must be a winner, why in the hell is there a time limit?
Fair point.
Yeah. So this is the match. Overtime, actually, specifically. Overtime is the point in the show where Bobby pretty clearly crosses the line from pleasantly drunk to sloppy drunk.
Yes, we've left tipsy. We're cruising past buzzed into intoxicated.
Because he spends a good chunk of the overtime just ogling Woman, which is it's really uncomfortable, Bobby. I know that you're too drunk to know better, but let's not. But yeah, as far as I think that we could have gone home at the point that you said. I think we could even have drawn out the full 5-minute overtime and had Dean not be able to last clear till the bell or pass out from the pain or something. And I think that would have been satisfactory. But yeah, going to the second overtime, even if the wrestling is great, even if what you do for a finish after that point would normally be perfect, you've completely lost this crowd.
Yeah. And I mean, as you're sort of alluding to there, obviously we go to a second overtime, and that announcement, I think, gets the biggest heat from the crowd of anything in the show so far, and it is just boos.
He has declared another 5-minute overtime period. Well, that's not a rule.
These fans are done with this match. Brain pretends it's because they think Benoit should have won, which that's just heel commentary stuff. I think part of it is that Malenko really doesn't do much face stuff in this either. And so like, they're not going to rally behind Dean because he's just out there wrestling, and like a different crowd. I think that could work, but I don't think here, I think as the Nakano thing and the cruiserweight thing established, you've got to be just blatantly obvious with what you're doing.
This isn't an NXT crowd circa 2014 or a New Japan or AEW crowd.
Right. And that's the analogy I'm going to give on this is this, like, this would kill at AEW Hidden Door. This would be Meltzer would call this a 7-star match or some shit like that. So the first overtime was kind of Benoit's time to get some stuff in and almost win it. The second overtime, Dean is rallying up from the injury, so he is doing that part of face stuff. He gets some good offense in. It's all good offense the whole way through. It all looks great. I'm kind of burying it, but it's all very crisp and very well executed as it goes along. But eventually, Malenko gets a submission in. Woman draws him by, I don't know, yelling at him or something. You mentioned Bobby drooling on her. I think I would hate, it would be wrong for me not to mention how Dream is on her, that devilish woman with those devilish eyes, just every time she's there. She does turn around and yell, "Shut up." I don't know which of the announcers she was yelling that at, but I think it was fair. But Women draws Dean off. He comes in and, I don't know, waves at her or something, trying to get her off the ring apron. That lets Benoit roll him up. Woman holds him down, and this finally gets us to a 1-2-3 for the winner. I'm going to not comment further, but I'm going to say, Joe, engine revs and summation for this match. I have thoughts, but I will save them.
Okay, so I think that my commentary on this match might be the hot take in this particular case, based on the way you guys have reacted so far. I thought this was 4 1/4 revs. I think that if we had cut it off at either of the points that would have made sense, I would have been sorely tempted to give it to the full 5. And if I were Dave Meltzer and this were the Tokyo Dome, I might have broken the scale and gone 6 or so.
Yes.
The two things that really hurt it and keep me from going that high are, one, this crowd does not have any appreciation for it whatsoever. And the fact that, as we have pretty well discussed at this point, they tried to squeeze too much juice from this orange. I do think that it's the best match that we have seen, period, so far on this show. Like our show, not the pay-per-view.
Fair enough. Matt, go ahead.
So I'm going to kind of tag on to what Joe said there. Like, AEW has done this a couple times in recent history where they've let time limit draws happen to set up a next match. The right move here, especially in the face of this crowd that they're working with, what in my mind was ended at the time limit, set up a match in front of actual wrestling fans at the next pay-per-view, and then you have a real good blow off to this feud. So in my mind, if you cut it off there and you fantasy book it forward, if you cut off at that time limit draw, I know I said it was at a 4, but I had already found out there was an overtime when I was writing that. I think I would have been with Joe up at like 4 1/4, maybe pushing 5 stars, especially if they had stuck to the time limit thing. Because if you're going to have a time limit to it, it builds you forward. What we ended up with was another 4 horsemen, stupid, woman's on the apron. Somebody gets unnecessarily distracted, roll up, win. To me, it cheapened the whole thing. The overtimes were unnecessarily dumb. You have the horseman tomfoolery. I knocked it all the way down from maybe 4.5 all the way down to 3.5 stars. I don't blame the Benoit and Dean for it getting knocked down. I blame really bad booking decisions.
Okay. So you think you had a hot take? I'm going to take the glasses off so you know how serious this is. Also, because I can't see the screen with the sunglasses on. Dean and Benoit fucked this up. Part of your job as a wrestler is to read the crowd and work the crowd as it's going along. And they can feel, if they're paying attention, they can feel as it goes along that this isn't getting across to this crowd. Maybe this is the Jim Cornette fan that's in me that maybe bucks against some of this, like, I'll just kind of say it, sort of self-indulgent wrestling for the sake of wrestling in the ring. But, like, the bookers, I'm sure the bookers were down with this, and they worked this out with the agents in the back, whatever that was when they were out there, and everybody sold into it. But you are in the ring. You can call the end of this match. You can call an audible while you're out there, and they needed to, and they missed the opportunity to do it here. Technically, this match is flawless. Like, I agree, Joe. In terms, put it in any other environment, or just score it on the match merits of the maneuvers and the way things are going in it. Perfect match. But you've got, part of the job is to know when you've overstayed your welcome and cut it off. And they just didn't do it. So that's why the cruiserweight one was my match of the night, was because I think Benoit and Malenko kind of blew it here with this thing. All right. Anyway, let's move on.
No, I think that is perfectly fair and valid. I think this is definitely a situation where we will agree to disagree. But no, I totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess I would say too that I don't necessarily disagree with you, especially in the overtimes. I just wonder, and I don't know if it's ever been commented on because I haven't done enough research, but the actual like time limit draw felt like the end, and the overtime thing felt like an audible to me, that somebody got in the ref's ear and said, when the fans didn't seem to buy the ending, that they said go into an overtime. But maybe I'm wrong and that's not right. But yeah, it was a fumble.
All right. Well, let's roll on to what will probably not be nearly as controversial, because our next match is the tag team title match, where we have the Steiners versus the Harlem Heat coming out with Colonel Rob Parker and Sherry. And when I say not controversial, I don't mean necessarily the crowd's reaction, but just everybody is pretty much on the same page about this match when this is going along. Because the crowd is on the Harlem Heat from the jump. The minute they show up, the crowd is all over them. Is it because of the three bikers I saw wearing replica German stall helms earlier? Who's to say? But there is a lot of booing going on. There is a lot of loud engine revving all the way through this match. And I think the thing that you can really tell it from is the way Booker is reacting to it. There's some things being said that are not okay. These guys grew up in Houston, in like urban, Houston. They wrestle in the South. WCW's territory is in Atlanta, for God's sakes. It's not like they've probably never heard these things before, but especially like even from the jump, as they're coming down the ramp, Booker is out front, and like the camera is with Rob and Sherry as they're coming down, and you just see that Booker has stopped and is just yelling at somebody out in the crowd there, and not in a I'm the heel and I'm trying to rev up the crowd kind of a way. He looks legitimately pissed, to me anyways. And then of course we cut to a pan pulling up behind a bike that has the German Iron Cross on the back. That is probably relevant right now.
This big.
Yeah. Yeah. So you listened to the 83 weeks about this, so you know that what Bischoff's take on it is. Bischoff's take on it is that there's this perception of biker culture as being the people that I am kind of implying that they are at this thing. His counterpoint is that these motorcycles cost, a house, some of them are expensive enough to be like a small apartment, to buy in terms of price. And so these folks that are kind of these, simpler, maybe they don't have the money to pay for that, come out to, the Sturgis rally on the other side of the country and things like that. I think the counterpoint is the people at Sturgis that have that kind of money demographically are also not the crowd that are going to come watch wrestling. I don't know. Let's cover this section here and then let's walk on from it, Matt. But I know I felt kind of uncomfortable with the crowd's reaction here.
Yeah, it wasn't a great thing to see at the start. And I guess I didn't clock the Booker yelling into the crowd. I missed that. So it makes a lot more sense why the Heat came out working his heels and looked really angry. I guess I had that in there that they were doing a great job. I had missed the thing that led up to them being so intertwined with the crowd and interacting with them in the way they were. So, that's on me. I missed that, but yeah.
Yeah. Joe, any thoughts you want to share on this?
So first off, to their credit, Booker and Stevie are pros. Mm-hmm. I mean, like pros. And a lot of, after the initial interaction, a lot of what they are doing is healing it up and playing into the fact that the crowd clearly views them as the heels, as they, should,
100%.
as the heels. As far as Eric's take, I think he's both right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people who are part of this culture, and the vast majority of them are really great people.
Right.
But I mean, you can see by some of the things that some of the folks in the crowd are wearing and have on their bikes that there is a significant portion of the people who are here at this event who either are not that same kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
or who are at best woefully misunderstanding the symbols that they are presenting. And unfortunately, I think what you tend to have in these types of situations is, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of a group of people, when you get 5,000 people together in an area to do something, you're going to have some bad apples in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can all agree on that. There may be some very specific exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, you get 5,000 people in a crowd and you're going to have bare minimum a couple hundred people who are real assholes and really not good people. The problem is when you start running into that herd mentality and people who are at least making an attempt to be good people, who get caught up in what the other people are doing and follow and escalate things. And that's I think a big part of what goes on throughout this match.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's really well said, actually, Joe. I think you take most of these folks in the crowd, meet with them one-on-one, and they don't behave this way. I think it's, herd or mob mentality, but, we're not even touching on all the rebel flags that are there, obviously. But like you said, Booker and Stevie are pros. They've dealt with this before, and they know what to do with this crowd, and they do it. Boy, do they do it as they're going along. The start of this match doesn't really start for quite a while, actually, as they're doing all of this heel crowd work, which leads to the crowd is revving the engines, and like Booker's getting in their face, and like everybody's waving, like, come out here. It's like, well, no, obviously they're not going to do that, but they're doing their job.
I do think that at least in the short term at the beginning of the match, I think it does kind of diffuse some of that tension to a degree.
I agree. You can get it out, like you can release it. Yeah, absolutely. And the Steiners, for their part, they also can kind of tell what's going on here. I'm sure they've been in this situation before, so I could kind of tell that they're like, especially Scott is doing way more like crowd work than he usually does, because he knows they're as nuclear hot as they are on Booker and Stevie. They're going to be just as, hot in favor of the Steiners here. So everybody is professional. Everybody does their job well here for sure. Booker I think eventually Stevie kind of comes in, Booker is just so busy yelling at the crowd that, after even the ring bell's gone, Scotty comes in and actually jumps him from behind while he's like leaning out, yelling at the crowd, gets him in for that beautiful, like double underhook, power bomb thing that he does, which pops the crowd like crazy. We get another BAC update here. We have reached the stage of slurring and losing track of what he's saying mid-sentence. So for those of you keeping track at home, I already covered this, that Scott's doing, a ton of mugging to the crowd, way more than he usually does. And it's successful. I think Stevie tags Booker out, maybe half kayfabe, half shoot to let him cool off a little bit. Comes in, but I mean, Booker's just out on the ring now, and he's just yelling, "Shut up, hillbilly." Something that sounded like maybe it was like, "I'm going to whoop your ass," or "fuck your ass up," maybe, or something's going to be done to an ass from what I could hear there. But, they're doing their jobs. They're keeping the crowd engaged. Scott stays on top. He tags in Rick. Rick continues the domination. Eventually, we get Scott and Booker back in. Booker gets a little comeback that the Steiners cut off. And that was what really kind of struck me as odd with this match, is in terms of like the pacing and the flow, the Steiners are the ones kind of working in sort of the heel role of like being on top and dominant as it goes along. And it's the Harlem Heat that are getting comebacks, but the comebacks are, to boos. Matt, did you notice that as you were looking here, or did you have anything else you wanted to sort of highlight in the early parts here?
Yeah, you could tell that it was the way they had drawn up the match didn't align with how the crowd was taking the match, but it was a really good match overall. Like, Scott Steiner was doing a great job both in the ring and working to the crowd. I think I commented in our Discord that I had kind of forgotten just how good Scott was in the ring before the drop foot took it away from him. Like, he is just on another level. Like, there isn't a move that he hits in this entire first section that doesn't look crisp, doesn't look like it absolutely blows up whatever member of the Harlem Heat he hits it with. So, that's just another great thing. But yeah, we're off to a really good start in this match.
Joe, anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, so there's you're talking about Booker continuing to engage with the fans, and I wish now that I had made a note of it. I think it's early in the match, but at some point during the match, while some of that is going on, Sherry actually gets involved in some of the back and forth, and you can hear her very clearly say, "I'm not afraid of you."
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like I said, the tension gets diffused in the short term, but it definitely picks back up as we build through the match. So it's a good thing that the action in the ring is so crisp and so good, and that regardless of the style that the Steiners are working, that they are playing to the crowd and kind of trying to deflect some of that negative energy that's going toward the Heat and turning it into positive energy towards themselves. I think there's a real strong argument to be made that out of everybody on this entire card, that Rick and Scott Steiner are the MVPs of the entire night.
I think that's fair. I agree.
I wanted to guess, I'll throw this in because I wasn't sure where it fell in the match. I don't know if it was around the time when you said that you heard Sherry say she wasn't afraid of somebody, but at one point, and I don't know what prompted it, maybe I missed it, but Rick Steiner yelled at Sherry and said, basically, from what I gathered out of it, "Shut up, bitch." And I don't know if that was trying to buy her out of that or if she had said something I missed. But that was another thing that seemed out of real left field, that Rick yelled, look dead at her and yelled, "Shut up, bitch." And I was like,
well, he even like kicks at her, I think, which is not Summer's hottest look. So, there's a little bit of Heat offense here with Rick and with Booker, where we get to the spot that I was really impressed with it the first time I saw it, but this must be just part of Rick's sort of thing that he does, where they do the running the ropes drill and Booker jumps and Rick catches him and power slams him down. Yes. I mean, he did it last time. It was to some like fucking Scott Norton or something. So that was pretty impressive just in and of itself, but it makes for a nice spot. I did appreciate a little thing that kind of happens where at one point, like, Scott tags out to Rick behind the referee's back. The ref, they swap, and the ref comes over and gets in Scott's face like, "Hey, did you tag out?" And Scott like points out at the crowd, and the crowd woos, like, "Okay, all right, I guess that's good enough to convince the ref."
But yeah, and Randy Anderson totally just shrugs his shoulders and is like, "Okay, I guess that's good enough."
Yeah. It would have been funnier if they like didn't tag out and the fans just still backed them up anyway. But I think it was a legit tag. There's a low bridge. Stevie gets Rick outside. They do some cheap shots on him there. They roll him in. Booker goes for the side kick, but Rick ducks and lets him hang himself, over the rope with that. Stevie comes in for the tag, slows things down, gets him down into a nice rest chin lock for them to sort of talk through. probably going home here in the short version or in the short run. Booker misses an elbow and then Spinneroonies up and hits the Harlem sidekick, which I thought was just, I'm not used to it coming off of him like missing a move and then Spinneroonieing up out of it. That was a little different. But yeah, before we head home, anything else in the kind of back half of the match, Matt or Joe, that you want to kind of touch on?
Yeah, I was going to say at one point, and we mentioned it with the Steiners where they actually tagged in. There's actually a moment where Harlem Heat didn't tag in officially, where tagging had started becoming really optional before the Spinneroonie got hit. And another thing that happened right around the time of the Spinneroonie, based on my notes, was Drunk Uncle Bobby said something dumb. Tony agreed with it, and then Dusty came in and was like, "Don't you agree with him?" And like really gave Tony the business for agreeing with him. So I'm like, Dusty's our hero, telling Tony not to encourage Drunk Uncle Bobby.
Hey, he's the American dream for a reason.
I think that it's about this point that during his podcast, Tony comments on how he didn't realize quite what state Bobby was in until Dream pointed it out to him. And I think he said it was during this match that happened. But as far as match things that are more directly related to the match, we get so many chin locks down the home stretch of this match. I thought I was watching an era appropriate British Bulldog match. Shout out to Wrestling Bios there. And I, as much grief as we have given the crowd during this match, and deservedly so, there is a really cool spot here where, you're setting up for the big babyface comeback. And in place of the normal, crowd clapping to get the babyface going, the crowd just goes and just revs the bikes kind of almost to that same kind of rhythm that you would clap to. And it's a really cool, effective spot to, speaking back to the very beginning where we talked about sometimes it's good to have things that are just different. I think this is one of those things that there's no way that they planned it, but boy, did it work.
Yep, I agree. We head towards the finish here. Booker comes off of the top trying to land an elbow. Rick gets out of it and gets over to tag Scott for a very brief hot tag. Runs in, I think just hits a couple of clotheslines. Goes in for a cover. Stevie comes in to break it up. So now Rick and Stevie are in and they're brawling on the outside. Booker gets Scott tied up over towards their corner, and Colonel Rob and Sherry come up onto the apron. One of them's got a bag of powder and is like handing the powder over to the other one. They throw the powder. Scott ducks it, and Booker takes it in the face. But the other one has powder, so Scott pops up like, haha, I did it. And then he gets hit in the face with powder too. And then Rob cracks a cane over his head to, take him down so Booker can cover him for the 1, 2, 3. For what it was actually pretty good coordination of the finish there for all 4 of those people to hit all of that. Boom, 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 boom. But it makes for kind of a clunk. Well, not clunky. It's a heel win to get out of this situation. And I think honestly, probably a good one to do with this crowd. And it gets, the garbage starts flying towards the ring. There've been a couple of bottles tossed in this as it was going along, but there's we're not quite to Bash at the Beach level of garbage getting tossed, but there's a lot of it getting thrown. As the champs hopefully head out towards the limo and get the hell out of Sturgis after this match. So Matt, where do you come in on the engine revs on this thing at the end?
I'm going to go in on it. I'm not going to lie. I thought the end was really bad. Like, getting to that finish with the referee still upright, not bumped, on the floor for no reason besides chasing 2 guys who are not active members of this match, trying to get them out there. He's standing facing towards, I rewound it to check, facing towards the corner where Scott gets hit with the powder and gets hit with the cane. Actually, eyeballs looking at Colonel Rob when he nails him with the cane. and then goes in and counts the pin like nothing happened while a cloud of dust is still in the air. I'm willing
You probably
to suspend
thought it was Bull Nakano's cocaine, okay?
I am willing to suspend my disbelief, but only to a certain point. And that is one of the worst finishes I've seen pulled off in our short reliving of WCW, in my opinion. For the match itself, it was a really good match. The ending, it is what it is. I don't like it. I think it brings it down. I ended up giving you a 4 rev match. I think it could have been a 4.5, 5 rev match with an ending that made sense. The match was on a really good pace. It had been worked really well. The crowd was alive. You had everything you needed to have a memorable instant classic match, and it just had an awful finish.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible they'd just seen so many clouds of white powder over the weekend in Sturgis that this was he just thought it was some more of the usual. Joe.
All right. So this is 3.5 revs for me. You actually talked me up a little bit from my original 3 as we were going through this. I think that it's important to consider the situation in the match when you're rating it, which is part of the reason that when Adam decided that he was not a fan of the previous match, that I said that I thought that was fair and valid. Mm-hmm. I think maybe I let that cloud my judgment initially just a little bit more than I should have. However, I have a counterpoint on the finish. By no means do I think that it was a good finish. It's as Pat Patterson would say, there's just too much gaga. However, that the design of the finish did a really good job of putting the heat on Parker and Sherry as opposed to Booker T and Stevie Ray.
Okay.
I was going to say, I guess I don't want to walk it back, but I will say I get it from that angle. But if you get to that moment by knocking the ref instead of having him nonsensically climb out of the ring, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I don't think that it was a good finish, but I think that it did an excellent job of serving the purpose that I think it was intended to serve.
Well, the double powder shot might have made more sense if, like, in an earlier match, they had hit Scott with the powder shot. Mm-hmm. And then, so this time he's like, aha, I'm on to you. And he ducks it, but then they get him anyway.
And maybe this is something that we missed on a Saturday night or a main event or something where they had done a powder spot leading up to this. And maybe that would make it make more sense.
But, I mean, as much as I'm kind of getting on the crowd here, it does sort of harken to some of those tales of the old days in the territories where, like, Cornette would come out with the Midnight Express and they would need the cops to escort them out because otherwise somebody was going to grab him while they were on the way out. So, I mean, if you were trying to get buy-in from the crowd, it's tough to do much better than this, regardless of the reasons. But so I think we decided that we were going to kind of split the pay-per-view up into 2 shows because we're already at 2 hours and we're only halfway through at this point. So real quick, we're going to go ahead and just sign off to everybody. I've been Adam. This is my brother, Matt. That's Joe. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and hopefully you've come back with us here in a couple of weeks to finish this out.
The New Pod Order is a sister show of the Analyzing Attitude podcast, which you probably guessed from us being on their channel. Be sure to drop a leg on the like and subscribe buttons, and if you like our show, you should give theirs a listen, because you'll probably like it too. Its opening video was created by Ace, and the theme was recorded by Jade Garrow and is used with permission. If you want to contact the show, our email address is newpodorderpodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us on X at NPOrderPodcast. The show is hosted by Adam and Matt Rogers and Joe Chasick, who want you to remember that when you're NPO for life.